Thank you for listening to the fifth and final part of the Deepdale Festival podcast. I'm Jason, and I have been chatting to most wonderful artists who are coming to play at Deepdale Festival 2023. This episode includes Kathryn Williams, who's playing on Thursday, Jacob and Drinkwater, who are playing on Friday, Brian Stone and the Masters of None, who are playing on Sunday, and Chad Mason, who's also playing on Sunday. If you'd like to join us for the festival, for a single day or for the whole event, then please take a look at deepdalefestival.co.uk, where you should find all the information you require. At the time of recording, there are a couple of non-electric pitches left, but otherwise the accommodation is full. However, there are day tickets of all shapes and sizes. Come and join us from the 21st to the 24th of September for what will be a brilliant weekend of live music. And I really hope you enjoyed listening to all these incredible artists talk about their lives, gigging, and their creative process. Enjoy the listen.
Skies all open wide, geese go high and over. Oh, now you're a beachcomber, a fistful of sandfire, sea, lavender, see you next year.
Chatting to the loveliest lady in the music industry, Kathryn Williams. For some of you, you will have seen her solo performance at last year's Deepdale Festival, which was absolutely wonderful. And Chris was beside himself having this amazingly talented lady playing at Deepdale. But she's coming back, and she's coming back with her whole band this time, which is just so exciting. And she is headlining on Thursday night in the Brick Barn on the first night of the festival. It is so lovely to speak to you, Kathryn. Thank you for joining me on the podcast.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's nice to see a human.
But you must have seen quite a lot of humans recently, because you've been gigging like crazy, haven't you? Or you've got gigs like crazy coming up.
Yeah, so we just got back from Purbeck Folk Festival. That was amazing. Yeah, and then Saltburn the week before, and I've been up in Edinburgh making a new record, and then a month-long tour where Deepdale is right bang in the middle of the tour, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're really excited you're coming during the tour. That's really fantastic. And yeah, we're chatting to Polly previous podcast, the fact that you guys are managed to fit us into your crazy busy schedule on that tour is just wonderful. So you'll be the perfect opening evening for the Deepdale Festival. It's going to be so good. Which is your favorite bit? Is it the performing, or is it the creative process?
That's an interesting question, because when I first started with my career, I had like really bad stage fright and imposter syndrome, and like early on when things were quite big for me, with like the BBC following me round and the Mercury Prize, I just wasn't equipped mentally to deal with it. So I would sit down to play because I would black out with nerves on stage.
Oh, wow.
It's so weird now thinking about that. I carried on doing it even though that was so hard for me. And now, like over the years, I mean, I've been doing it for like 20 plus years now. I've grown to sort of appreciate the sort of special gift that a gig is, because you'll never have that same gig again. And so it's kind of a magical event. And when you go to see someone play live, even if they're doing a whole tour, that night is unique. And with it, like social media and all these things that you can have on, you know, watching things on on computers or phones and things. Just to be in the moment and part of the music that's happening there in front of you is like a really deep connection. So I've kind of grown to, even though I still get nervous and I have those little voices going, "You're rubbish, no one wants to hear you," and things like that, I try and quieten them down and just appreciate like the idea of connection, which is what music should be about.
Yeah, people really loved your sort of stories you told about the songs and that sort of thing, and seeing someone who's clearly comfortable with that situation, and it's amazing to hear how nervous you used to be, kind of when, and the fact that, as you say, you carried on. But it's really interesting, kind of when we've seen Kathryn Priddy and Ellie Gowers and people like that, they're learning that process of kind of the fact that it's almost as important to talk to the audience and tell them about the song that they're about to perform, and the reason why they wrote it and everything else, as it is the song itself. And it's fascinating seeing how different bands approach and different artists approach like playing live. And I just think that bit, all of our customers, and I think a folk festival probably is particularly like that, isn't it? They love that. They love to know how those songs came about and why that person's performing, because they're so personal, those songs, so often, aren't they?
Yeah, I think the talking thing half comes from nerves of like, because when I'm singing, it's I always think that I'm like a bit like a penguin, and when I'm singing, I'm sort of in the water, all graceful, and I'll get lost in the song, and then the song finishes, and then I'm back on land, waddling about, trying to think of something to say to everyone. But yeah, I think I used to fight those moments and be worried about just being myself on stage, and now I sort of embrace vulnerability as like a power and just think, well, I have got a bit of a potty mouth, and if I can make people laugh between sad songs, then that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing, and I think people really love that. That's fantastic. And I imagine the whole Mercury pricing must have just been a complete headspin, kind of whirlwind, in a way that no artist is really ever ready for.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was my second album and I'd self-released, and that was sort of before like Facebook, MySpace, Spotify, anything like that. There was only a few of us who were like doing things on our own record label, and I'd been asked to sign to Warner's back in the day, but I'd decided I wanted to sort of be independent. So it was a really weird thing when I got nominated, because I was the label. I went to the announcement as well. So the artist doesn't go to the announcement, the label does. So I was there, and then all the cameras turned around, and I think I ran away to a pub around the corner because I couldn't handle it. But it was like a Cinderella time for me. I was working in a cafe selling scones and then thinking up lyrics and pretending to go to the toilet to write lyrics on toilet roll, and then the next thing I'm in a massive hotel in Park Lane with Coldplay and all of these people under giant chandeliers. It was quite spellbinding.
Yeah, that's quite a big step forward, isn't it, really? But yeah, that's fantastic. And it's such an interesting industry in terms of it can give people those amazing opportunities, but then it just can eat them up and spit them out in a weird way as well, isn't it? And I always find a real passion for artists like yourself who kind of feel like they're in a sort of sense of their own control. You found a way of kind of controlling what you and how you want your career to progress.
I love that that's how you think. I wish that was how I thought. I basically just pootle along like Paddington, maybe Paddington 2, and just try my best. And what I have to focus on is the quality of the creative work that I make and the process. I think people go mad in this business when they start to fixate on the product or the end product. And I think that, so then they start to try and work out what it is they are and what they want to be and how to make a successful song, or thinking of success and failure. Whereas if you treat the creative process as the prize, like, so the writing of the song, the making of the song, being in the studio, and like it's almost the end song is a byproduct of that whole process. So if you're in love with the process and you're in love with the search and the learning, because every time I start to write a song, I'm like, oh, I'm never going to write a song again. I don't know what I'm doing, and I never know what I'm doing. But that's part of the excitement, like, to not let your ego make you feel like exactly. I think the day that I think I know what I'm doing is the day when I need to sort of start up playing a saxophone or something that I don't know anything about.
So embrace the feeling of out of controlness, just kind of,
Yeah, or just inquiry and enjoyment, and the joy of knowing that you don't know everything.
Yeah. And I guess, you can just say it's the enjoyment of discovery, really, isn't it? It's, of where is this going to take me? How do I get there? What's the process? All of that sort of thing. And I think, sadly, often I think that's lost in life, isn't it? It's sort of, people like the rigidity, and actually, I think, discovery of, well, I'll take the path that I just haven't taken before and see where that takes me. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and to keep on going. I mean, it's a weird journey. I mean, I'm 16 albums in now, so I've been Flavour of the Month and I've not been Flavour of the Month, and I realised that, like, all of that it's a hard thing to navigate, because what you make is so attached to who you are and your own worth. But the more and more I carry on, I kind of feel like there is a tipping point. I'm trying to make beautiful things that last beyond me. And that's like a honourable thing. Like if you pick up a pencil and draw, or if you write a song or write a poem for someone you love, any sort of creativity is a noble thing.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, we are so looking forward to you being back at Deepdale. It's going to be wonderful, and it'll be great to see you with all your band. If I played a track of yours, what do you feel we should include as a sample in the podcast? And your choice entirely.
Oh wow! Well, the songs that I'm going to be doing are from the album Night Drives, and it's got quite a sort of some of the songs are quite big and cinematic. It was produced by Ed Harcourt, who's just a genius. So maybe play one of the bigger songs, like Answer in the Dark, or Moon Karaoke, or Radioactive, just to give people a flavour of how big it can get.
Fantastic. Really looking forward to that. And and I know your band and yourself will fill the Brick Barn with the most wonderful music on the Thursday night of the festival. So thank you so much for chatting with me, and we look forward to seeing you at the end of September.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I can't wait to see you all.
Thank you, Kathryn. So I am on Zoom. I am chatting to Lucas Drinkwater, who is literally the other side of the world. He is in Australia, and we are very lucky. His new internet connection at his new house has literally just gone live. So we are making full use of that and doing a podcast across the world, which is really exciting. Deepdale Podcast is now fully international, which is really good. So welcome, Lucas. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Jason. It's a pleasure to be invited.
Lucas is playing with his partner in crime, Jacob, and they are going to be playing on Friday in the Orchard tent at the Deepdale Festival as Jacob and Drinkwater. How did Jacob and Drinkwater come about?
Yeah, so I've only recently moved to Australia about 6 months ago. Jacob and Drinkwater started in 2014, so we're nearly 10 years in now. And at the time, we were both living in Exeter in Devon, and we'd actually been both playing in bands over the years, touring loads, playing festivals and things. And I'd actually been watching Tobias play for years in his old band, Roots Union, who I was a big fan of, actually, which had Philip Henry and Hannah Martin from Edgelarks were in that band as well with him. And I was touring with a band called Three Daft Monkeys, a sort of festival late night party band. And we used to see each other at all these festivals and never actually met, but we watched each other play for years. And then one day we found ourselves both in our local pub in Exeter, the Globe Inn. Someone introduced us and said, hey, you guys must know each other. And we hadn't actually until that point met. And so we found out that the following day we were both going to Glastonbury Festival to play separately and decided, why not play together? So we rehearsed that evening in the corner of the pub. We asked the landlord's permission and said, you don't mind if we just get our instruments out and start playing? And he was totally fine with that. So yeah, we had our first rehearsal the day we met, and then we played our first gig together the following day at Glastonbury Festival. And it was just, we didn't form a band there and then. We just decided to have a bit of fun and play together. But then it just went so well. We ended up playing, I think, 3 or 4 shows at Glastonbury that year. And people just loved what we did, the harmonies, the interaction between us. And so we decided to carry it on. And we've been touring fairly non-stop ever since.
Fantastic. So were you in Three Daft Monkeys when they played at Deepdale?
Was that...
It was 2 years ago.
No, I wasn't. I stopped playing with them about 8 years ago, actually.
Okay. Got you. Right. Yeah, so they came and played. It was that slightly... awkward one where we were kind of not quite sure how to run a festival amid pandemic, but it all went very smoothly, and it was thankfully it was very good. So yes, I think Chris has probably seen you on his trips down to Cornwall, probably seen you play somewhere there, or he has an interesting collection of places where he finds great artists. So they just appear on our program, and sometimes he can remember where he saw them first time, and other times it's in the dim and distant past, and he just can't remember. So well,
if he goes to lots of festivals and indulges in a fair bit of cider, maybe that it all becomes a blur, doesn't it?
That is very true, especially the Perry. Yes, yeah, exactly. So how is Jacob and Drinkwater going to sort of cope with your move to Australia?
It's got very long legs. We've already tested the international thing because for a couple of years Tobias was living in Poland. So I've moved here because my wife is from Australia, and we decided after many years of living in England to give it a try over there, or over here rather. It was her turn to be at home, and Tobias's wife is Polish, and they'd lived for 18 years in England and decided to live in Poland for a little while. So during that time, we found it wasn't too difficult because we tend to sort of tour in chunks anyway, rather than just gigging all the time. So we would just book in maybe a month of shows, and one of us would come to the other, and we'd spend a few days rehearsing, working on new material. Or we even made an album during that time when we were living in different countries, sort of sharing ideas remotely and then working on them together in the studio when we had the opportunity. So I think it'll be fine. We've already got, we've got this tour coming up, including the Deepdale Festival, which is all through September and October. I think we've got about 19 dates, and I'll be heading back over to the UK. And then we're doing another tour next spring. So we're going to do roughly 1 or 2 tours a year, and I'll try and get Tobias over here as well. And
you could do an Aussie tour. Yeah.
I'd love to. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some good clubs in New Zealand as well. Yeah, maybe you could do a Antipodean, tour.
Yeah, it's a bit different touring. I mean, I've done a fair bit of touring here with my wife Emily. She's a musician too, and we've toured around Australia. It's a bit different because you have to fly from gig to gig because everything's so far apart.
Yeah.
So you don't just hop in the van and have a couple of service station stops on the way. It's if you were to do that, it would be a couple of days between each gig. So
yeah, it makes the travel somewhat more expensive, doesn't it? Really, from one place to another. So yeah, that's hard. That is really hard. Yeah, I guess you could probably do a sort of a mini tour around sort of Sydney and Melbourne and stuff like that, and sort of stick to that sort of area. But yeah, that could be quite complicated, couldn't it? Really.
Yeah, we'll definitely give it a try one day, though.
Fantastic. Well, really lovely to chat with you. I'm looking forward to your gig immensely. It's going to be fantastic. And as I say, Jacob and Drinkwater are on Friday on the Orchard tent. They will be really, really wonderful. Hop on to deepdalefestival.co.uk for more information. If we played a track of yours, what would you like us to play?
Well, we've got a relatively new album out, which is called More Notes from the Field. And I think actually my favourite song on the album is not one of the singles. It's called A Day Out of Time.
Day Out of Time. So, fantastic. So that'll give people a pretty good hint of what they've got to expect when they see you at Deepdale. So that's fantastic. Well, enjoy your new Aussie world and your new Aussie life. And we are very honoured that you have fitted us into your tour in September, October time. So we look forward to seeing you then. Oh
yeah, it's a nice warm 25-degree winter day here. So yeah, thank
you. Yeah, it's a nice sort of 16-degree drizzly summer's day here. So like what more can we? Great comparison. Well, lovely to meet you, Lucas. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Jason.
An angel here in human skin, beauty of eye and beauty within, from desire to pursuit, every flower longs to be fruit. A rose ascends and a rose it dies, a day out of time, a life in love, a day out of time, a life in love. Was it light that made the eye to see the blue of the morning sky? Was it sound that formed the ear to hear the morning sing so?
I'm chatting to three lovely folk who are standing in the rain, sort of surrounded by tree and music, so we might hear the rest of the festival in the background. And this is Brian Stone and the Masters of None, who are playing on Sunday in the Brick Barn. One of the band has played the Brick Barn previously, but the other two are Deepdale virgins. So it's very nice that you're all coming to join us this year. Hello, gents. How are you?
Hi there, Jess. Yeah, we're very good, thanks.
Very good. Very good.
So they're on a mobile phone, standing in a probably dangerously in a sort of thunderstorm. So if we suddenly all goes quiet.
Okay. We've come to a corner of the field where we're currently performing at a mini festival today, and it's just started to kick off at the stage. So we've come to a corner to be a little bit quieter, maybe.
Excellent. Excellent. We'll hear all the announcements beautifully, I'm sure. So do you want to introduce yourselves? Just explain what you play and who you are.
Okay, so I'm Brian Stone. I used to play a lot solo, but since meeting up these guys, it's become a trio, and we've absolutely had a great couple of seasons playing together. I'm singing and play guitar and write most of the songs. Ewan, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
My name's Ewan. I play, as Brian said, mandolins and other string things.
So many strings.
Yes, so many. And I really enjoyed playing with Brian ever since we first met up, and I started recording a bit with him. I think that would have been in kind of lockdown or just post-lockdown, wasn't it?
We did a show actually at a festival at Lakefest.
We did,
quite a few years back.
Campfire sessions as well. We met up, and it's sort of grown.
Yeah.
And I'm Matty. I played the Baran. We've all come up with him. We come out of other bands. He was in Bleeding Hearts, and I was in Focus System. But when it's sort of slowed down, we then joined Brian. I've been playing with Brian for a fair few years, to be honest. At festivals, even when I was with the other band, if we were at the same festival, and I'd go on and guest them as a duo, and then this young man joined us and made it even better.
Yeah. It's really brought things to life for me. Solo show. Great, but it just lifts the energy so much. Having these guys on stage with me frees me up to move about a bit and stuff. So it's been a really good. The chemistry's great as well. So yeah,
and we can miss the own.
Yeah, we can do it.
And then, what sort of music would you describe yourself as playing? What genre? What would you describe?
Always a tricky one. It's definitely folk based. In fact, we're probably, even with the Mandos, we're probably even a bit more folky these days. But it's a very lively, upbeat, energetic, exciting, dancey kind of folk with a definite pirate tinge to it. Yeah. I sing a lot about rum, but pirates and the sea, and those themes are really coming strong. Very much came through on the last album. And are definitely a theme of the show these days. So lots of shanty kind of stuff, lots of joining in, lots of sing along stuff. Get people involved right from the start. That's the kind of thing we're at, and that's what we're trying to do. Yeah,
a lot of crowd participation.
Yeah.
From the first song, we get people up, sing along with the chorus and stuff. So everybody's having a party. So. Pirate party folk.
There you go.
Excellent. So I assume if you're singing about pirates, you come from the most landlocked county in the country.
We all do, yes.
Yeah. Well, you're based in Banbury, which is kind of where we are now. We're at a place not too far from Banbury, where there's
place.
It's called the Big Place. We're doing a show later on this evening. You and your more West Midlands, back country. We're landlocked. Yeah, very much. We're a little bit nearer the coast. My wife and I, we're nearer Peterborough based, so that's kind of not too far from Deepdale. We definitely, Constant and pretty much Peterborough by the sea. So we're kind of we're a bit more local.
And how's the creative process work? Brian, do you sit down and write most stuff, and then these guys sort of throw in their penny's worth, or do you kind of do it?
Pretty much, yeah. The songs are mostly written by me. I've mostly written as a solo artist, but these days I tend to write with a band in mind, and certainly the last album was definitely written with that in mind. And Ewan certainly contributed on a couple of the tracks at least. Matty provided a lot of the drum there, and they come in and build the songs. Certainly, as far as the live show's concerned, we've definitely evolved to have those sounds on the live pro show. It's fantastic now.
Excellent. And which is your do you prefer the creative process or the gigging?
Do you know what? Writing and creating for me comes in fits and starts. I think it has to be my mind has to be in the right state of mind, and that's when the songs come. So that comes as it comes. Really, the gigging is so much fun, absolutely incredible. We were very fortunate to get a show at Maui Wowie Festival in not too far from you guys down at Durham,
Yes,
so we that's probably our first time in Norfolk as a trio, certainly. Yeah. I've played Norwich solo, but and it was absolutely fantastic to bring that energy to the stage. that's where it all comes to life. And we're so looking forward to getting our hands on your stage.
What track would you want me to play if I played one of your songs? What would sum up what people are going to expect from you on the Brick Barn stage?
Pretty much has to be the song that has stuck with me since I've played it since I started as this solo career. I was at a festival once, and we to cut a very long story short, we were around a fire late at night, and the rum ran out, and from that small spark came "Why Is All the Rum Gone," which is the song that stuck with me throughout my career so far. That is the one that everyone wants to hear. It's the one we will finish with. It's the one I'd love you to play some of. It's all about that night and how yeah. It's all right. It's all right. We found some more. It was quite a yeah. And that's a great song. People yesterday were saying that's just stuck in my head now, and so. Why Is All the Rum Gone? Rhinestone and the Masters of None. That would be awesome. Thank you.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. Well, gents, I hope your gig today goes really well and the sun shines on you. Enjoy it. We'll see you in a few weeks' time at Deepdale on the Brick Barn. So, looking forward to seeing you on the Sunday. That'll be brilliant.
That'll be absolutely fantastic. We're really looking forward to it. Back. Cheers, guys. We'll see you soon.
Cheers. Thank you so much, gents.
Bye.
Oh, we're sitting round the fire and the flames are burning higher. Oh, we don't want this night to ever end. Hey, it's getting so surreal, but we love the way this feels. All the love and laughter with our friends. And the stars are burning bright as we fade into the night. In the firelight, faces all aglow. And we're singing songs just fine, but there are some corny lines like you can't push Willie round, Willie won't go. Well, there's still one thing I need to know. Still one question before we go. I don't know how it's happened, haven't got a clue. Tell me what the answer is, I don't know what to do. Why is the rum gone? Why is the rum gone? Why is the rum gone? Oh, why is all the rum gone? Oh, there's whiskey in the jar as the sound of the guitar is weaving its magic round the fire. A flavoured vodkas and liqueurs as it all becomes a blur. Getting Lynn and Haley ever higher. Neil and Helen on the beer with Douglas sitting near, and Mark rolling ciggies ever wider. Rob and Carol have run out.
It's pouring with rain outside, so I'm quite glad we're not standing in a field somewhere trying to chat. And I am chatting with Chad Mason, and he is playing on Sunday on the Courtyard stage at the Deepdale Festival. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, it is raining here. Hopefully, it won't be raining in September.
No, it's going to be beautiful. It never rains in Norfolk.
No, never.
Yes, never.
Never in September.
Am I right in thinking you played before at Deepdale, or is this your first time?
Yeah, so I think it's before the pandemic, maybe 2019, 2018.
Yeah, you played in 2019. We're looking forward to welcoming you back to Deepdale. How is gigging going at the moment? Is it keeping you entertained and busy?
Yeah, it's keeping me pretty busy. I mean, I have a day job, so I'm fairly limited by what I do in the summer. I try to keep busy, but not sort of too busy. I think a lot of people after the pandemic, and I promise that's the last time I'll use that word, came back to gigging, and they were sort of trying to do loads and loads because that's the job. So they were trying to play lots and lots and lots of festivals. And if anything, I had sort of too many the year that everything started again. I was like, I've got used to just being quite quiet and not doing anything. And suddenly these big events with lots of people, it was quite overwhelming, I think, that first summer. So but it was great. It was great. So I've kind of minimized it slightly, but I'm still, and I said I was going to have a very quiet year this year, and I've still got six gigs over the summer period, which is just me. And I also play in a couple of other bands as well, and those are gigging as well. So I've still ended up with about 10 things over the summer, which is not very quiet, but I think it's about kind of finding your own little space in those events and not trying to do too much, and maybe not turning up for the whole weekend. But I don't want to get to the point where, I work at a lot of festivals and you see bands who don't really get to see the event. So it's about finding a happy medium between those two scenarios. I think being part of the event and being able to kind of experience the other acts without feeling that you're just stopping on, one tiny stop on a tour. But at the other end of things, not having to kind of, I'll give you a classic story. I was playing keyboards in a band last year, and I turned up at a local festival in Norfolk, and I'd spent so long, having not been at a festival for a couple of years, getting very stressed about making sure I had enough food. I had too much food, and I made sure I got 50 changes of clothes and all this. And I got to the festival. The one thing I'd not brought was the keyboard, which I needed to play in the band, which was the whole point of me being at the festival. So I think, there's a lesson in that, in kind of working out what your priorities are when you're playing particularly at big festivals and over the summer. Is I'm really there to share my music and play and enjoy playing for people. And that kind of has to come first. But the nice thing about my level, where it isn't really a job, is that I can go along and experience the other acts and really feel like I'm part of the atmosphere, if that makes sense. But yeah, there's always a balance you have to strike somewhere between those two camps, I think.
In terms of the creative process, do you find that songs and stuff come very easily to you, or is that something that you have to work at quite hard?
Yeah, I think it's always hard work. I think what I found as sort of getting older and having more responsibility and having more work, and times I think when I was a student, which is probably when I first started making music kind of in a sort of almost industrial way, sitting down and actually providing myself with times to write songs. The difference between that and now is that there's just no time. And I think there's a danger that it can feel quite robotic, the songwriting process. And actually, the older you get and the more you become open to other genres of music and the less snobby you become about music, I think you become more comfortable with being slightly more mechanical about songwriting, because a lot of the best songs ever written are written quite mechanically and are written as collaborations between artists. I mean, a good example, I've done a few shows recently, either as a sound engineer or as an artist with a lot of country artists from Australia or from Nashville. And there's that Nashville tradition of co-writing, which is a total anathema to me. I sort of grew up musically in the Britpop era, where it was kind of single singer-songwriters who wrote for the band they were in or whatever it was. And the idea of a co-write was kind of a sellout thing. Whereas in Nashville, it's entirely part of that industry. And it's seen as odd if you don't want to collaborate as a songwriter. So that kind of mechanical part of the process, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think. It's just as long as there's a sort of, and I hate this word, but as long as there's kind of soul or vibe to it, that thing that you can't quite capture it descriptively.
You either feel it or you don't, as they say. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And as long as that's there, a song can be put together relatively mechanically. I mean, there's a song of mine called Warnings, which I still haven't got around to releasing, and that was written entirely mechanically. I sat down and said, I'm going to write a song that's quite psychedelic and weird. And there is not one single bit of heart in it. There's no, it's just totally robotic. And I think it's one of the best things I've done. I mean, I still think some of the best songs I've written were just sat in a little cellar in my student house where I had all the time in the world. But then some of those songs took 2 years to write, some took 20 minutes to write.
Yeah. Really lovely to chat with you, Chad. Thank you very, very much. We really look forward to seeing you at the Deepdale Festival. Would you mind if I included just a little sample of one of your songs? And if so, which song would you like me to choose?
I've got a new single out at the minute, which is on Bandcamp, and it's called Jurnet's Tale.
Sounds great. We look forward to your set. It'll be great.
Great. I'm looking forward to it. Can't wait to see everyone.
The house lies empty, all the drinkers have gone. Underneath the undercroft, the shadows grow long. The famous brick still sticks in the hole by the door, but no one delights in its sight anymore. Once there was music by royal decree, and before that a more violent history. But now it stands empty, for those who hold sway would deny education, sweep this history away. What will the future hold behind the old linen fold? Isaac gave ransom to see the Lionheart safe home, and to keep Norwich trading his money he loaned. But the records he kept, his debtors hoped.
Thanks again to Kathryn Williams, Jacob at Drinkwater, Brian Stone, the Masters of None, and Chad Mason for joining me for this fifth and final part of the Deepdale Festival podcast. There may well be interviews and chats with other artists when we record them at the actual festival, but this is it in the run-up to the festival. Don't forget to listen to the other 4 parts of this Deepdale Festival podcast series, and to any of the back catalogue. You can find them in any good podcast app or directory. Just search for Deepdale Podcast and you should find all of our previous episodes. Thanks again to everybody who joins me to come onto this podcast. Please do email your suggestions and thoughts to podcast@deepdalecamping.co.uk. We love to hear from our listeners and hear what you think. And if you've got a moment, please review us on any podcast directory, particularly on Apple Podcasts, which really helps our listenership. Thanks again for listening. Keep well and enjoy the theme music by Jess Morgan.
Skies all open wide, geese go high and over. Oh, now you're a beachcomber, a fistful of sand.